You think they care, don't you? That if you're good enough, kind enough, patient enough, they'll finally see you, finally treat you the way you deserve. But here's the thing, people don't work like that. They don't reward kindness, they exploit it. They don't admire patience, they drain it. They don't respect you for playing by the rules, they laugh at you for thinking the rules even matter. You've been playing fair in a rigged game, waiting for a turn that was never coming. See, people, they don't see you, not really. They see what they can take, what they can use, how much they can pull before you break. And when you do break, oh, that's the best part for them. They get to watch you crumble, get to pretend they care, while secretly relishing every fracture, every wound they helped carve into your skin. That's what they do. That's what they always do. And you let them. Again, and again, and again. But there's a moment, a sharp, defining moment where everything shifts. The second you stop waiting, the second you stop hoping, the second you realize that all this time you were begging for scraps from people who wouldn't even notice if you starved, that's when it happens. That's when you wake up. It's funny, isn't it? How they always act surprised when you change. Like they didn't spend years chiseling away at your patience, your mercy, your trust. Like they didn't do everything in their power to mold you into this. And yet, when you finally snap, when you finally decide you're done being their little pet, their little doormat, they gasp. They call you cold, call you cruel, call you heartless. But where was their heart when they crushed you? Where was their kindness when you needed it? Let me tell you something. They don't want you to wake up. They don't want you to see them for what they are. They need you docile, obedient, willing to bend until you break. Because the second you stop bending, the second you refuse to play the role they assigned you, you become something dangerous. And oh, they fear that. They fear you realizing just how little you ever needed them. They fear you turning your back the way they turned theirs. They fear you moving on and leaving them to rot in the mess they made. But let's not lie to ourselves. You're still hesitating, aren't you? Still thinking maybe, just maybe, if you explain yourself, if you give them one more chance, if you wait just a little longer, they'll finally get it. That's the joke. That's the tragedy. They will never get it. Not because they can't, but because they don't want to. Understanding you means admitting they were wrong, and they would rather die choking on their pride than do that. You have spent so much time making excuses for them, so much time justifying their actions, rewriting history in your head to make it hurt less. But you don't have to do that anymore. You don't owe them a damn thing. Not your kindness, not your patience, not your understanding. They lost the right to those things the second they decided you were disposable. So what do you do now? That's the real question, isn't it? Because you're at a crossroads. You can keep waiting, keep hoping, keep setting yourself on fire just to keep them warm. Or you can walk away. Walk away and never look back. And yeah, it's gonna hurt. At first, it's gonna feel like ripping off your own skin, like carving out a piece of yourself. 'Cause that's what they made you believe, that they were part of you, that you weren't whole without them. But that's a lie. You were never incomplete. They just convinced you that you were. So let them miss you. Let them feel the weight of your absence. Let them wake up one day and realize they lost something they can never get back. But you don't sit around waiting for that day to come. You don't linger in doorways that should have been shut a long time ago. You move forward. You build yourself back up. Not for them, not for revenge, but for you. Because you deserve better than the scraps they threw at you. And for the first time, you finally see that. It's funny, isn't it? How people always come back when they think you've moved on. How the moment they realize you don't need them anymore, suddenly they're desperate to remind you they exist. They send messages, they ask around about you, they try to crawl their way back in, but they're not coming back because they care. No, they're coming back because they lost their favorite toy. They lost control over you, and they can't stand that. That's when you know you've won. Not when they apologize, not when they beg, but when they realize they never should have let you go. But by then, it's too late. Because you don't give second chances anymore. You don't open doors that were meant to stay closed. You don't waste your time on people who threw you away and expected you to come crawling back. Let them regret, let them drown in the silence you leave behind. And you keep going, because that's the real victory. Not in proving them wrong, not in getting even, but in becoming someone they can never touch again. You ever notice how people only appreciate what they lost once it's gone? When you were there, they treated you like an afterthought, a convenience, something to be used when needed and ignored when not. But the second you walk away, the second you decide you're done, suddenly you're the most important thing in the world. Suddenly they remember your worth. Isn't that funny? Isn't that pathetic? They never saw you, they saw what they could take. And when you stop giving, they panic, they scramble. They tell themselves stories about how you've changed, how you became cruel, cold, unrecognizable. Because the alternative, the truth is too much for them to handle. The truth is, they did this. They created the version of you that no longer tolerates their nonsense. And now they have to live with it. But here's the thing. They don't change. Not really. They might show up at your door, voices dripping with regret, telling you everything you wanted to hear, but it's not because they're sorry. It's not because they suddenly realized how much you meant to them. No, it's because they missed the control, the comfort of knowing you'd always be there. They missed the version of you they could manipulate, the one who made excuses for them, who bent over backwards to make them feel better about their own shortcomings. That's the version they want back. And you're never gonna be that person again. Oh, but they'll try. They'll remind you of the good times, the laughs, the moments when it all felt real. They'll pull at the strings of nostalgia, hoping you'll forget the pain, the disappointment, the betrayal. But you won't, because you've seen them for what they are now. You've seen the way they take and take and take, never thinking for a second about what it costs you. And that knowledge, it changes you, it makes you stronger, it makes you dangerous. Because now you're not playing their game anymore. You're not waiting for an apology, for an explanation, for some grand moment where they finally get it. You don't need that. You don't need them. And that's what terrifies them the most. Because people like them, they only hold power over the ones who need them. They thrive on dependency, on being needed, on feeling like they're essential. And when they realize they're not, when they see that you can stand on your own, that you can walk away without a second thought, it destroys them. It eats them alive. They don't know what to do with someone who refuses to play along, someone who doesn't break under their weight, someone who looks them in the eye and says, "You don't matter to me anymore." That's a nightmare they weren't prepared for. And maybe, for a second, you feel bad. Maybe a part of you still wants to believe they can change, that they can be better. But that's just the last ghost of your old self clinging to the lie you lived in for too long. Because deep down, you already know the truth. If they had valued you, they wouldn't have risked losing you. If they had cared, they wouldn't have treated you like an option. You don't have to teach people how to love you the right way. If they wanted to, they would have, and they didn't. So what now? That's up to you. You can waste your time trying to make them understand, trying to make them see what they did. Or you can let them live with the silence, with the absence of you. Because that's the real punishment, isn't it? Not your anger, not your words, but your absence. That's what will keep them awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering why they never thought you'd actually leave, wondering why they assumed you'd always come back. Let them wonder, let them regret, let them drown in the quiet. And you walk away, because you don't have time for people who only realize your worth when it's too late. You ever notice how they always come back when they think you've forgotten? They wait, they give it time. They figure if enough days pass, enough nights go by, maybe the damage fades. Maybe the version of you that loved them, forgave them, tolerated them, is still in there, buried under the one who walked away. So they test the waters. A message, a like on an old picture, a pathetic attempt at casual conversation, like they didn't burn every bridge between you, like you don't still carry the scars of their betrayal. But you see it now, you see through them, and for the first time, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't make your stomach drop. It doesn't make you wonder if you should answer, if you should give them one more chance. No, now you just feel disgusted, amused even, because you know exactly what they're doing. You know it's not about you, it's about them. It's about making themselves feel better, about easing their own guilt. They don't care how they left you, how they made you feel. They only care that you're strong enough to walk away, that you might have actually healed without them. And that scares them more than anything, because they counted on you staying broken. They counted on you missing them, on replaying every memory, every good moment, until you convinced yourself it wasn't so bad. That's what they do. That's their game. They make you remember the laughter, but forget the lies. Remember the warmth, but forget the way it burned. They twist things until you can't tell the difference between love and manipulation, between affection and control. But not this time. This time you don't fall for it. This time you don't answer. And for the first time they feel what you felt. Confusion, uncertainty, the sting of silence, the feeling of reaching out and grasping at nothing. They don't like it. They don't know how to handle it. Because the version of you they thought they knew, the one they could toy with, is dead. And in its place, someone who doesn't need them. Someone who sees them for what they are. And oh, they hate that. They hate when you stop caring, when you stop reacting. Because reaction is power. If you yell, if you cry, if you fight, that means they still matter. That means they still have a hold on you. But silence, indifference, that's what kills them. That's what keeps them up at night, staring at their phone, wondering why you don't care anymore, why you don't flinch, why they don't affect you the way they used to. Let them wonder. Let them sit in the mess they made. Let them feel the weight of the nothingness they created. And you keep moving forward, because that's the part they never expected. That's the part they never prepared for. They thought they could break you. They thought you'd always come back. But you didn't. And now they're the ones left behind. They always think they have time, that no matter what they did, no matter how deep they cut, you'll still be there waiting. They think they can come and go as they please, take what they want, disappear when it's convenient, and return when the loneliness creeps in. Because that's what you used to do, right? You let them. You excused them. You swallowed your pride, buried your hurt, told yourself maybe this time would be different, but not anymore. Now, when they reach out, they find a door that's been locked, welded shut, and set on fire. And that terrifies them, because it means they've lost control. It means they don't get to rewrite the story, don't get to smooth over the past with pretty words and empty apologies. It means they have to face the truth that you were never theirs to break, only theirs to lose. Oh, they'll try to test you. They'll throw out little bait, see if you bite. How have you been? Thinking of you. A pathetic attempt to worm their way back into your mind. Because that's what they need, more than anything, to know they still exist inside you, that they still matter. That even if they hurt you, at least they left a mark. Because to them, even your hatred is a comfort. It means they still have space in your head. But you won't give them that. You won't waste another second of your time on someone who threw you away like you were nothing. Because that's what they did, isn't it? They treated you like a temporary fix, a backup plan, an option instead of a priority. And now they expect you to forget, to let them back in, to act like none of it ever happened? Number. Because you remember every moment they made you feel small. Every time they ignored you, dismissed you, left you to drown while they went off chasing distractions. You remember how they only came back when they needed something, when their world was crumbling and they wanted you to be their safety net. You remember how they laughed when you hurt, how they shrugged off your pain like it was nothing. And now Now they want to pretend they care. Let them beg. Let them scramble for a response. Let them feel the silence the way you felt it. Because that's justice, isn't it? Not revenge, not cruelty, just balance. Just them finally getting a taste of what they served you for so long. And maybe for a moment, you'll be tempted. Maybe some small part of you will whisper, just answer. Just see what they want. But then you'll remember they already showed you who they are. And you believe them now. Because once upon a time, you thought they were different. You thought if you loved them hard enough, if you proved your worth, they'd wake up, they'd appreciate you. But that was the lie. The truth is they only ever valued what they could take from you. And the second you stopped giving, they realized they had nothing. So let them sit with that, let them feel the loss. Because you've already won. You don't need them. You never did. And now they finally know it. They hate it. The not knowing, the uncertainty, the way their words don't reach you anymore. They tell themselves it's a phase, that you'll crack eventually, that one day you'll slip back into their orbit like you always did. Because that's how it used to go, right? They'd pull, and you'd come running every single time. But this time is different. This time, they don't get the satisfaction. This time, their name pops up on your screen, and you don't even flinch. No anger, no sadness, just nothing. And that's what kills them. 'Cause they can handle your rage, your heartbreak, your desperate pleas for closure. They like that. They feed off it. It makes them feel important. Powerful. But this silence, this indifference, it's suffocating. Because for the first time, they're the ones being ignored. They're the ones feeling small. And they don't know what to do with that. So they start trying harder. A longer message, a carefully crafted apology, sprinkled with just enough nostalgia to make you question yourself. They try to remind you of the good times, the inside jokes, the moments when they made you laugh. They try to make you forget everything else, the lies, the manipulation, the way they drained you until you had nothing left to give. But you remember what it felt like to sit there, waiting for them to care, waiting for them to show up, to be better, to love you the way you deserved. You remember the disappointment, the endless cycle of hope and heartbreak, the way you kept lowering your standards just to keep them in your life. And now you see it for what it was. A game. A one-sided performance where you played the fool and they played the puppet master. But you're not that fool anymore. They don't get to come back just because they're lonely. Just because they finally realized what they lost. Just because they're choking on the silence they once forced you to swallow. They made their choice, and now they have to live with it. But they won't accept that. No, they'll keep trying, keep pushing, keep throwing words at you like they can somehow undo the past with the right combination of syllables. Because in their mind, you don't get to leave them behind. They were supposed to be the one who decided when it was over. They were supposed to have the power, but they lost it. And that drives them insane. So they test your boundaries. A comment on an old photo. A mutual friend casually mentioning they've been asking about you. Little breadcrumbs, little reminders that they still exist, still want to be in your world. And maybe a few months ago, that would have worked. Maybe back then you would have taken the bait, let them weasel their way back in. But not now. Now, you see the pattern. Now, you know this isn't about love or regret or some deep revelation about how much you meant to them. No, this is about control, about ego, about them needing to prove to themselves that they still have some hold on you. They don't, and that's the worst punishment you could ever give them. Because they didn't just lose you, they lost the version of you who would have forgiven them, who would have made excuses, who would have let them back in with open arms, no matter how many times they left. That version of you is dead. And now, all that's left is someone who finally knows their worth. Someone who doesn't settle. Someone who doesn't answer. Let them wonder. Let them drown in the silence. You're already gone.